And we are live. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, November the 7th. This is the Ask Lee live at 5 fitness and nutrition Q&A. So as you're popping onto our live stream here today, whether it is today, this afternoon, this morning, whatever time it happens to be in your local area, please let me know by typing into the chat window. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Introduce yourself, and we'll be getting into our live Q&A very shortly. All right, just waiting for a few people to pop on, get this up and running. And of course, if this is coming through loud and clear, please just type into the chat window that it is coming through loud and clear, that you can hear me and see me and all that good stuff. Because where this is a live stream, I always want to make sure that it is coming through fine and then we're not running into any technical difficulties with audio or video streaming. It seems to be working well on my end. And Lee's joining in, saying it is coming through loud and clear. Much appreciated, Lee. Thank you for that. Lee's a regular to our chats. I think he tunes in pretty much every single week when we do a live stream Q&A, which is awesome. Have a fun Friday with Lee. Yes, we do indeed. Fun Friday with Lee. It's a nice way to end the week, something that I really look forward to. And hopefully you look forward to it as well. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be here if you didn't. So for those of you who are regulars to the show, you know how it works. But for those who are brand new to these live Q&A that I do, I just want to kind of give you a little introduction and, of course, welcome you to the chat. And the way this works is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition, health and wellness, any specific challenges with your workouts, building muscle, losing fat, anything along those lines. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window. Or if you're watching over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page, you can type it down into the comment section below, wherever you're tuning in from, either Facebook or YouTube. You can post your questions and comments there into the chat window, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our video chat. And this is something that I've been doing for quite a while. If you're new to me and the Total Fitness Bodybuilding channel, I've been around the game for quite a while. Like, I literally started my very first bodybuilding website back in 1997 when the internet was just getting started. When YouTube came on board, I started the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel back in 2006, and it's just kind of went from there. So, I've been around the game for a while, and over the years, I've picked up a few things. Right, I've competed in bodybuilding for over 15 years and learned a lot of things along the way in my journey. And now I like to share that and pass that along with you. So if there's any questions or topics of discussion that you would like to discuss, feel free to type those in and we'll jump right into it. All right, let's see who we have joining in. We've got AJ joining in. Hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you joining us. Who else is joining in? Feel free to introduce yourself as you pop onto our live stream here today. Let's see. We got some questions coming through here. Excellent. And last week, we didn't have a Q&A because it was Halloween last Friday, and I was out trick-or-treating with my son, Harvey, and we had a lot of fun doing that. So obviously, there was no live Q&A, and I'm sure most of you, especially people in North America and places that celebrate Halloween, you probably weren't going to be popping onto a live stream Q&A. So, we missed last week, but we're going to make up for it now. Start again with a clean slate here today. All right, Adil's got a good question. I want to pop this one up onto the screen here. Just give me a second, guys. Adil saying, did you ever experience bigorexia, body dysmorphia, and how did you overcome it? All right, bigorexia, that's a term that we hear in the bodybuilding world, and it's basically the opposite of anorexia, where, people, they're never big enough. Like anorexia, obviously, you're always thinking that you're too big, you're overweight, you got to lose weight. Bigorexia is the complete opposite. You always think you're too small, you're too skinny, you're too scrawny, no matter how big you get. And there's actually a good documentary about this. It's literally called Bigorexia. I believe it's available on Tubi. If you watch Tubi, it's free streaming. It's free with ads, but that's where I've seen this documentary too. And it's worth watching. if you haven't done it already. You can just go there and search for it. But it really uncovers I guess, one of the dark sides of bodybuilding in that sense, where people are never satisfied. It's never good enough. And, I can relate to that. And I mean, I think everyone probably has something along those lines to a certain degree, but it's not out of control, right? It's not extreme. I mean, when I was younger, and I was, especially when I was competing in bodybuilding, I always wanted to get bigger. I was, you're never satisfied, right? You always want to be bigger. You always want to be stronger. You always want to be better. And you're constantly comparing yourself to people who are bigger, stronger, and better. And to a degree, that can actually be helpful and motivating and kind of like push you and encourage you. But then it comes a point where, you can take everything too far, right? Like it's not so much I guess it's the degree of how extreme this gets. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's how bad does this get? If you just use it as some motivation and inspiration to kind of push you and drive you to want to improve, that can actually be looked at as a good thing. But if it gets to the point where you're putting yourself in harm's way and doing things that are not healthy, and that's what that documentary Bigorexia really goes into. If you want to see like the dark side of it, then obviously that is something that's not a healthy thing. So in my situation, it never really got out of control. So I mean, have I experienced it? Yes, I can certainly appreciate it and relate to it, but I never went to the extreme where it got to the point where it was like all consuming and I was obsessed with it, or willing to do things that were put myself in harm's way to just get bigger for the sake of getting bigger, right? But I can certainly experience it, or certainly understand where that comes from. But if anybody's interested in learning more about that, definitely check out that documentary that I mentioned. It's just Bigorexia. Just do a search for it and you'll find it there online. Let's see what else we got there. Let's see. Here's another question coming through from Armored Ghost, is it? I guess. A lot of lifters vouch for barbell exercises, but can you talk about how machines have their place in training? Great question. Yeah. All the exercises and stuff, whether it's barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, machines, calisthenics, resistance bands, whatever, they're tools. I want you to look at that. It's tools. It's tools in your fitness toolbox that you can use to build your body. It's not that one is right or wrong or better or worse. It's almost like if someone was trying to build a house, or a mechanic was in the garage working on a car or something like that. Like, you got a lot of tools available to you. So I'll go back to the initial analogy, like a carpenter building a house. You can say, well, I only use a hammer and a saw, right? I'm old school. I'm a hammer and saw man. And then someone else says, well, I use power tools, or I use these, other tools. And it's not that it's right or wrong. It's just another tool for the job, right? I mean, if you're trying to cut a piece of board and you're going to use a hammer to do so, well, that's probably not the best tool for the job. And the same thing applies when it comes to exercises. Like, barbells are great for certain movements. Machines are great for certain movements. Dumbbells are great for certain movements. Kettlebells or resistance bands or even TRX straps, or like, there's all these different tools we have available. And it just depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve, or what exercise or muscle group you're trying to stimulate. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. They all have their place. Now, when I'm coaching people brand new to the gym, I tend to start with more machine exercises at the beginning. And the reason for that is machines are easier to learn because they're set up on a guided track. Like, you think of like a chest press machine or a leg press machine or a lat pull down machine, or, any type of machine exercise that you see in most commercial gyms. You're basically pulling or pushing against resistance along a guided track. So it's a lot easier to learn the mechanics of the exercise. It's a lot easier to stimulate the muscle. And there's very little risk of injury because you're not going to get pinned under a heavy barbell, or lose your balance or anything like that. So there's a lot less risk and it's a lot easier to learn. So from a beginner's point of view, I usually start off with machines. Once they're comfortable with those machine variations, then we'll probably gradually incorporate some free weight variations. And I'll give you an example. Like we'll start off, say, like with a chest press machine. So it kind of simulates the bench press, but you're doing so with a chest press. And you're just pressing him against the resistance along a guided track of the machine. And if someone hits failure with it, it's usually not a big deal because the machine is going to catch the weight for you. You know, it's not going to be pinned against you. It's very safe, very easy to learn. As people get more advanced, then we might gradually move into other variations. Like maybe we'll move into push-ups, you know, a body weight exercise to kind of a similar movement pattern, but now that's a more challenging exercise because you're moving your entire body through space. You know, once they've mastered the push-ups, then we might get into doing some bench press variations, whether it's a barbell bench press or a dumbbell bench press variation. And then when you're doing free weights, barbells and dumbbells, now that incorporates another level of difficulty because you have to balance and stabilize that exercise. So instead of having it along a guided track, now, you know, the barbell can move and you know, in a more three-dimensional environment. You know, it's not just lifting up and down. Now you got to stabilize and balance it. And if you're using dumbbells, then you got to balance and stabilize two weights. So it just has different progressions. And there's advantages to all the different exercises. Like when you're using free weights, because of that balance and stabilization that's required, it's going to stimulate a higher level of neuromuscular activation, but it doesn't mean that the machine exercises are not applicable or has no place, because they certainly do. And a lot of times when we're looking at just exercises in general, you can do a lot more variety with machines than you can with free weights. Like free weights, they're just going up and down against gravity. Whereas machines, you can push horizontally, you know, you can pull down vertically. Like to try and simulate a lat pull down with free weights is very hard to do. In fact, I don't know how you would do it, actually. I mean, you could do pull-ups, but that's not a free weight exercise. That's a body weight exercise. So if you're trying to do something where you have to pull from, you know, the top to the bottom, like a lat pull down or a tricep push down or something along those lines, it's very hard to duplicate that with free weights. So machines can sometimes provide exercise variety that's not possible to achieve with free weights. And there's other exercise variations, like you look at leg extensions and leg curls, inner and outer thigh, abductor and adductor machines, well, like certain variations like that, even like a pullover machine. Like it's hard to duplicate that movement pattern efficiently with free weights, right? So like a lot of advanced lifters incorporate those exercises, and they will primarily use machines because you get better range of motion, more constant tension, and a lot of times it's actually more effective. Like one of the old school exercises, like a pullover. I mean, sure, you can do a free weight pullover, but you're not getting a constant tension throughout the entire range of motion. Whereas if you use a pullover machine, it's steady resistance, and you can get a full stretch, full peak contraction with resistance the entire way. So there's a lot of times where machines can actually have an edge over free weights. But again, it depends on the exercise and the situation, of course, what it is you're training for. You know, the big thing that I would like to encourage here, especially for people who are new to fitness and they're just trying to get in shape, like you're not a competitive athlete, you're not looking to be a bodybuilder, you're just like, I just want to get in shape. I just want to like lose the gut, build some muscle, improve my health and fitness. You can start with the machines and you can get great results with machines. Now, as you become more advanced, you might want to incorporate some more free weight exercises and body weight and things like that into your routine. But focus on working the muscle and not getting hung up on the specific exercise, because you can still train in a progressive overload fashion. You can still make progress with all the different exercises, but a lot of times the machine variations are more practical and more safer for the greater majority of people. Obviously, if you're getting into more advanced things, like you want to get into powerlifting or Olympic lifting or something, then obviously, yeah, you need to use barbells because that's what that is, right? Like a chest press machine or a leg press is not going to simulate a bench press or a squat, right? You have to train what it is that you want to get good at. So if you're looking to eventually go into powerlifting, then of course barbells are going to be part of your training. But for general fitness, it doesn't have to be. And that's the nice thing about these gyms these days is you have such a huge variety of equipment available. If you can't do a particular movement, either because mobility or it's just too technically challenging at this stage of the game, you can probably find a machine variation or some variation that will allow you to train that muscle group, train that movement pattern, and do so safely and efficiently, using the variety of equipment that they have available at the gym. So that's the nice thing about it. But I'm not free weights are king and machines suck, or vice versa or anything like that. It's just tools in the toolbox, and you use the right tool for the job. But again, that's a great question, and that's one that a lot of people get tangled up on, right? Like they just getting tangled up in the weeds, right? It's almost like trying to compare, oh, well, a hammer's better than a saw. Well, if you're trying to hammer a nail, it is, but if you're trying to cut a board, it's not. Right? It depends on the job. Let's see what else we got there. Adil saying, do you include foods like lentils and beans and legumes in your diet? They're not talked about as much as in fitness. I will have lentils and beans and legumes, but it's not a everyday staple. I mean, if you enjoy those foods, go for it. I mean, the nice thing about those foods is they're very filling, very satiating due to the fiber content, and they're what a lot of people refer to as a slow digesting carbohydrate. So a slow carb, right? I think it was Tim Ferriss in his book 4 Hour Body had a section there talking about the slow carb diet, and it included a lot of beans, lentils, legumes, and things like that because of they are a carbohydrate. I mean, there is a starchy carbohydrate, but because of the fiber content and that is a slow releasing carbohydrate, it will stay in your system longer, take longer to break down and digest, and keep you feeling fuller and more satiated for longer. So from a fat loss point of view, if you're trying to get the most eating satiation for the least amount of calories, these are great. The only thing you have to look at is do you have any digestive issues with them? Because let's be honest, when people eat a lot of beans, you tend to get gassy or bloated, or sometimes there's some digestive issues involved there as well. So put just from a practical point of view, like you don't want to be, for example, like in a business meeting or at work or wherever you're to and farting all afternoon because you had beans for lunch or something like that. Or you're out on a date, right, and you had beans for dinner that night, and you're out now and you're and you're trying to hold in your farts or something like that. That could be an issue for some people. So use your beans and lentils responsibly there, right? We don't want to be creating a windstorm, but from a practical point of view, I mean, it's another source of carbohydrates. I mean, there is some protein in there as well, but I wouldn't rely on that as your major source of protein. Look at the protein you get from beans and lentils and legumes as kind of like a bonus. It's extra protein, but I wouldn't rely on it. Like I know a lot of vegan and plant-based dieters say, well, oh, I get lots of protein because I eat beans and legumes. Yeah, it's not the same as good, solid, complete animal protein, right? But it certainly is a good food to eat to give you some complex carbohydrates, satiation, and keep you feeling fuller for longer with less calories, right? But yeah, I mean, like if you enjoy it, go for it. I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with them. Just be aware of the windstorm afterwards. that could be the problematic issue for some people. Let's see what else we got there. Another question coming through from Costa Rica 100. Leave what you would recommend to get your squat up as a substitute exercise, leg press or hack squat. What would you recommend to get your squat up as a substitute exercise? Honestly, leg presses and hack squats can help. I mean, they're going to be working the same major muscles as the squat. If you want to get your squat up, you're going to have to squat. Like the bottom line, like you have to practice the movement that you actually want to get good at. but you can incorporate other assistant moves or other exercises that are going to work the same muscle groups and get stronger in those as well. So I'll give you again, how deep we go down the rabbit hole with this question would really depend on you, your training situation, how advanced you are. Like if you're a general fitness enthusiast who's like within your first year of training, like we're going to keep very surface level. If you're like an advanced power lifter who's been training for years and you're very, technically adept at doing squats and all the core gym exercises, and you're stuck at a plateau and you're trying to get from good to great, that's a different level of conversation. That's another stage of training. So, it really depends on where you're at here. But just from a general fitness point of view, the way I would normally go about this is I would not start with barbell squats. Right? I would probably start somebody with leg presses because it's an easier exercise to learn and master. Then I would probably progress to a hack squat machine, or maybe even before I'd even go to hack squats, I'd even just start with body weight squats. Right, get comfortable with that, just getting used to that hip hinge and going through the squatting motion. Once someone's comfortable with that, then I would probably move to a pendulum squat. And a lot of gyms these days have pendulum squat machines, which kind of move in like an arc pattern versus the traditional hack squat, which moves in a linear pattern. I find that arc pattern that you get in the pendulum squat is a lot easier on the knees, and it's a more natural movement pattern. It doesn't create the same stress on the knees. Because I've personally found this, and I know from talking to a lot of other gym goers over the years, the old school hack squat, which is basically like an inverted 45-degree angle leg press, it's very hard on the knees for some people. Whereas these pendulum squats that move in that arc motion, it creates more of a natural movement and usually doesn't cause discomfort. A lot of times people find it even more comfortable than regular squats in terms of, knee pain. And some of it even have back supports as well. So you can have your back supported while you're doing that squatting motion. But that would be the next progression. And then if someone's comfortable with that and they want to take it to the next level, then we would gradually start incorporating and learning the back squat movement. Right. But all these exercises, they're still going to work the same major muscle groups. I mean, obviously leg presses are not going to work the back as much because when you do a squat, I mean, sure, it's legs, but it's also, hips, glutes, spinal rectors, traps, like all the muscles of your posterior chain come into play. And simply just supporting that weight on your back is quite a challenge in and of itself, right? Whereas if you're doing a leg press, your back is not loaded. So your back is up against the pad. So it's basically just loading up the legs. So it's not a true carryover, and everyone's going to find you're going to be able to leg press way more than you can squat. Like that's universal across the board. So if you really want to get good at squatting, you have to implement the squats. And there's a lot of different workouts that you can incorporate, different set and rep pattern variations, different squatting variations like box squats, power rack lockout squats, different, you can work within different ranges, experiment with different stances. I mean, there's, like I say, we can go down the rabbit hole pretty deep with this one, but just from that surface layer answer, they're all going to help, but it really depends on what's your particular sticky point. Like what is the problem if you need to get your squat up? It might be a technical issue. It might be a muscle weakness issue. It might be a mobility issue. So that's something that you'd really need to address, ideally with a fitness coach, someone who can work with you one-on-one to address what is the weak link in your squat that you're trying to get up here. But again, hopefully that kind of gives you some food for thought and some areas to move forward with, right? And if you want to unpack this deeper, feel free to reach out to me. I mean, I got my contact information down in the show notes below. You can drop me an email and we can have a chat about this offline. Let's see what else we have. Danny is joining in saying, hello, Lee. If I don't log all my lifts with reps, weight sets, I don't know if I'm progressing. How do some people get results without logging? Great question. And you're right. Like if you don't measure it, then you really don't know if, well, I'm not saying you won't know, but it's not as obvious if you're making progress or not. But you can still make progress. And the key to making progress, like we got to zoom out and look at this from the big picture. As long as you're consistent, you're showing up, you're pushing yourself, like I'm not saying like kill yourself in the gym, but you're training and you're gradually building up your work capacity, building up your strength and fitness. You're going to make progress even if you don't keep a notebook or a tracking app or whatever. Like, just like I'll give you an example to make this clear. Person A sits on the sofa, doesn't go to the gym. Person B goes to the gym and works out 3 times a week, but they're not tracking anything. At the end of the year, who's going to be in better shape? Person B, who spent all the time sitting on the sofa watching TV, or person B, who went to the gym and worked out 3 times a week? Like, just the fact that they're going to the gym and working out consistently, they're going to make progress, regardless if they track anything or not. Right? Just showing up to the gym, working out, you're going to make some progress. Now, could that progress be optimized? Of course it could, but it's something's better than nothing. So you have to look at it like from the big picture perspective. Something's better than nothing. So if someone's consistent and they're showing up to the gym on a regular basis, regardless if they're tracking their workouts or not, they're still going to make progress. Now, they will probably sooner or later hit a plateau and they might be, like kind of level off. And now just showing up to the gym is not actually productive. It's kind of like maintenance for them, but it's still way ahead of the person who's not showing up to the gym and not doing anything. Right. So, I mean, that's how people can make progress. It's just consistency. Right. I mean, and that applies with anything. Right. Like, even if I'm a runner, like if I just go outside and I just say, I'm just going to go for a run, 3 days a week, compared to someone who doesn't run, even if I'm not tracking, all the metrics of my run in terms of my heart rate and my cadence and my, my split times and all this kind of stuff and whatever, I just go out and run. I'm going to become a better runner just by doing it, right? Like, just showing up consistently, you're going to see some results. Now, once that just showing up and doing it hits its plateau, that's when we need, okay, now we got to take it to the next level. And that's where tracking and getting more meticulous and working with a coach and kind of like finding out, okay, what are the weak points in your training? What are you good at? What are your weak points? What do we need to focus on? That's where breaking out the tracking and really like looking under the hood, so to speak, can take things to the next level. But to simply answer your question, I mean, to make progress initially, you don't need to track anything. Right? Just showing up and going through the motions is going to put you on the right path. Right? Like, and you don't need to overcomplicate this. Like, I know some people, when they're thinking about starting a workout program, they're like, well, once I get the perfect program with all the exercises, sets, reps, and everything outlined, and the perfect training split, and then once I get the perfect diet plan with all my calories and macros and everything outlined, and I got the perfect schedule, then I'm going to start. Like, no, just start now. We'll figure it out as you go. Like, don't overthink it. Don't get tangled up in the weeds. The whole, paralysis by analysis. Just show up, right? The person who's willing to just take imperfect action, just show up and figure it out as they go. That person is going to make way better progress than someone who's has this perfection mindset and they're going, I'm going to wait until everything's perfect before I start, because it's never going to be perfect. And even if you do get a short phase where it is so-called perfect, it's probably not going to last for long before there's going to be challenges and obstacles and things that derail the so-called perfect program. But if you're willing to just show up, you can make progress. And this is what I refer to as being good enough and good enough consistently. Like, someone who's good enough and good enough consistently, they can beat someone who's occasionally great, right? Like, this is the way a lot of people are with their fitness, is like, when everything's on track and I got no responsibilities and I can follow the perfect routine, then I'm going to go all in, right? I'm occasionally great, but they're not good enough and good enough consistently. Right? They're on, off, on, off, on, off. And this on and off approach doesn't lead to sustainable results, because whatever progress you make when you're on, you're going to lose it all again when you're off. So it's just like spinning your wheels, right? Staying stuck in a rut. Where someone who can just show up, even if they're doing a half-ass workout, but they're doing a half-ass workout consistently, that's going to compound and lead to better results over the long term, right? Consistency trumps all. What else we got there? Moving on now. Next question. Have you ever had an Achilles injury? If so, how long did it take to recover? I know every case is different. Personally, no, I haven't. So I can't speak from personal experience on this, but I know of friends who have torn their Achilles heel, and it is a long one to, or the Achilles tendon, I should say. That's what I meant to say, not the Achilles heel, the Achilles tendon. If you snap that tendon, and that's like one of the biggest tendons in the body, um, that could take a long time to recover. Like it's not, oh, rest up for a week or two and you'll be back to normal. Like, no, this is going to take months and probably even a year or more before you're back to normal. Like that's something that's a long injury to rehab from. So, and again, I don't have personal experience or feedback to share for it, but I do know of people who have had that injury before, and it's a tedious one for sure. They're very often they're wearing like that ankle boot to support everything and walking with crutches, and yeah, it's a long process for sure. All right, but again, I can't give you the specifics for how long, but just realize this isn't a short-term thing. Like you're probably looking at a year before you're back to quote unquote normal, and even then you probably have to be cautious over what movements and activities you do. But that's just the reality. I mean, it's a rough one for sure, and that applies with a lot of injuries. Like sometimes if it's only like a minor bump or a bruise or a strain, you might bounce back within a few weeks or something. But if you tear something, whether it's a muscle tear, tendon tear, or ligament tear, or whatever, you're just not bouncing back quickly. Like that's a long-term thing. I mean, it could take weeks, months, or like I say, a year or more before you're back to normal again. And unfortunately, in some cases, that may never fully recover. Like that might haunt you for forever. Like I've had muscle tears in the past, like that are I've had back in the. I remember my first muscle tear was in 2008. I tore muscle in my back, and I mean that still bothers me today. I mean, obviously I can still work out and keep active in that, but I can't do stuff that I did to the same degree as I could prior to that injury. Like that's been a limiting factor, right? And it's something that'll always be a limiting factor. It's always going to be a weak link in the chain, so to speak. Right? And that's the harsh truth when it comes to dealing with injuries. Let's see what we got here. Another question coming through. Is it okay to sacrifice a bit of form to go heavier, or is 10 out of 10 form ideal at all times for the best progress? That's a bit of a gray area as well. Like, sure, we can say, yeah, strict form all the way, but it depends. And it depends on the exercise, it depends on the individual, their fitness level, and all that. Again, I'll just elaborate on it a bit more to kind of give some context. When I'm working with new people, we focus on the form. Like I really don't care how much weight someone's lifting. I just want you to learn the mechanics of the exercise, learn the proper form, learn how to feel that muscle working and get that mind muscle connection. That's step one. Once they start doing that and they're showing up to the gym consistently, their strength is going to go up naturally, just as a byproduct of showing up. Like just going through the motions, they're going to get stronger. Their exercise mechanics and techniques going to improve. They're going to become more efficient. They're going to get stronger. And a lot of times when people are new to the gym, that initial strength gain is not all pure muscle strength. A lot of it is just being more efficient with the exercises, learning how to contract and do the exercise properly, like firing all the muscles that are supposed to fire, being more focused, being more efficient. Like a lot of the strength gains just come from technical improvements. Some of it does come from fitness and muscle gains, but I mean, a lot of the initial ones is just from technical improvements. Once the technique is kind of dialed in, now we're getting into actual muscle strength, tendon strength, like building real strength, I guess. And that comes a lot slower. And sometimes for certain exercises, you can loosen up the form to a degree, I guess, in some controlled cheating to help encourage more muscle growth. And I'll give you some examples of where this could be safe and applicable. Like, think like with a bicep curl. This is a classic one. If you do a perfect strict curl, you're going to be quite limited in how much weight you can curl. But let's just say you're doing a set of 10 reps and you use a weight that allows you to curl 6 perfect reps with strict form, like no swinging, no momentum. You're just muscling up the weight. And then you get to the point where you're struggling, can't fully curl it up. And then you just use a little bit of swing, a little bit of momentum. That will allow you to complete the curl. And then you can do a slow negative, right? To kind of encourage some extra training stimulus or handle a slightly heavier weight. So like if you had to take a set for that, you could use 10 reps with perfect strict form versus 10 reps, maybe half and half strict form, half a little looser form, you'd be able to handle slightly heavier weight and might be able to encourage some more gains there. And for that exercise, the risk of injury is quite low, as long as you're doing it in a controlled fashion and still lifting within your means. Same thing when it comes to like a barbell row or something like that. Like sometimes you can use a little bit of explosiveness and a bit more power versus just that slow controlled squeeze, and you might be able to power up some extra repetitions or handle a little bit extra weight. So it can be used in more advanced situations, but there's a fine line, right? It's a gray area for sure, but if you overdo the swinging and the cheating, then you open up the door because it's increased risk of injury. But if it's done in a conservative and controlled way, you can loosen up the form in certain situations and spur on some new muscle growth or get your body adapted to handling heavier weight. Right. One that I like to use for my coaching students is rather than cheating and actually going into poor form, a lot of times we'll lower the number of reps. So let's say someone is, we're doing sets of 10 reps. Like that's our standard, say like with an exercise, and they're hitting a plateau and it's like, man, like I'm stuck. Like, let's just use the bench press, for example. Like I'm doing 200 pounds on the bench press. I'm getting 10 reps and like I've been stuck on that for several weeks. I just can't get beyond that 200-pound barrier. I say, okay, let's drop the reps down to 5 and just see how you feel in that lower rep range. And then maybe they can add an extra 5 or 10 pounds to the barbell and, build up to lifting heavier weight with lower reps. And then gradually we'll build the reps back up. So it's just another way of trying to get more progressive overload there. But instead of just always adding weight and keeping the reps the same, sometimes I'll work within a range, drop the reps down, increase the weight, gradually build the reps back up, right? And then if you hit a new plateau at that level, we can kind of repeat that cycle. It's almost like a ramping phase where, build it up, drop the reps, add weight, build it up, drop the reps, add the weight. I mean, that's a strategy I like to use. And usually when you're doing lower reps, you can keep the form better, right? You're not getting into that sloppy form. You're doing lower reps. Even if you need to do multiple sets, right? Like that's another tactic and strategy I use. Multiple sets of low reps to try and encourage more muscle growth and still keep the form in good form. So you're not getting into the sloppy cheating form. But like I say, there's a lot of strategies that can be used here, but it is a gray area. Just realize that and use your own discretion, right? That's what I'm going to suggest here, because if you go overboard and you get hurt, then that's going to set back whatever potential progress you could have potentially made by stimulating a bit of extra muscle growth, right? Like if you're laid up with an injury, it ain't worth that. Oh, I maximized muscle growth because I pushed myself extra hard, right? No, injury prevention is key when it comes to long-term sustainability and ultimately long-term progress. Got Tim joining in. Says he's checking in at 6.1% body fat on the DEXA scan. That's very respectable. Way to go, my friend. That's awesome. And he says started at 30.9%. So, I mean, Tim's been on a quite the fat loss journey, and he's been sharing his journey over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. So, appreciate you for sharing the updates here. And again, congratulations. I mean, that just goes to show your hard work and your consistency is paying off. And for anyone who is watching this right now, if you want to join us over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, you can certainly do so. And again, I have the link to that down in the show notes below this video chat. You can head on over there and send a request to join the group there, and I'll go in there and make sure it's a legit request and approve you. But all you have to do is answer the questions that are there on the application page for the group. It's just to confirm that you're a real person, right? Because I get a lot of spam crap on that group, and I'm constantly every day denying fake accounts or whatever. But if in the thing, like, you can even mention, hey, you mentioned joining the Facebook group on the YouTube video chat, so that's why I'm here. Like, that would just let me know that it's a real person, and I'll accept your invite, and then you can participate on our Facebook community and join in the conversation, sharing your workout progress, getting feedback and suggestions along the way. Let's see what else we got here. We've got Eagle Eye John saying, is cook from frozen foods okay or fresh better? From Eagle Eye John. It depends what the frozen foods are, but if you're looking at frozen vegetables or frozen chicken or frozen meat or frozen fish or like natural unprocessed foods that just happen to be frozen, from a nutritional point of view, there's no difference. Now, from a taste and culinary experience point of view, fresh is usually best. Like, if you're, heating up frozen vegetables, they're probably not going to taste as good as farm fresh, garden fresh vegetables that are picked when they're ripe and cooked when they're supposed to be cooked and all that. Like, it's just, you can't beat fresh produce or when it's picked when it's supposed to be picked. Like this year, in the last couple of years, my wife, she's been growing a vegetable garden out in our backyard there. So I mean, like, getting fresh tomatoes and fresh carrots and lettuce and onions and all like getting fresh vegetables and stuff like that from the garden. I mean, it tastes so much better than the stuff you get at the store, right? Because it's picked when it's supposed to be picked, and it's just tastes better. But from a nutritional point of view, frozen is just as good. The only thing I'm going to caution you on is, what kind of frozen food are you getting? Like a frozen pizza, I wouldn't go for that. Or if you're saying, oh yeah, I'm having frozen chicken and potatoes, my chicken just happens to be like breaded chicken strips, and my potatoes happen to be French fried potatoes, i.e. French fries, and that's not the same. All right. Like, but if you're having like natural unprocessed food, like frozen vegetables, frozen meat, or frozen chicken, or frozen fish that's in its natural unprocessed state, from a practical point of view, that's just as good as the fresh. And a lot of times it can actually be cheaper, and it will last longer. And sometimes, it's especially depending on where you live, it may be better quality, and it might actually taste better, because especially if you live in like a northern climate and you have to get a lot of produce shipped in, I mean, half the time it might be like going bad while it's still on the grocery store shelf, right? So I mean, in that situation, getting the frozen stuff might actually be better quality and taste better. But yeah, I mean, I buy frozen. It's one that I love to get, like frozen berries. Like, buy the big bags of mixed frozen berries for like blender smoothies and stuff like that. I will stock up on frozen fish and frozen chicken and frozen stuff like that. I mean, because it's cheap and it lasts long. I mean, you can easily store it there in bulk. But yeah, I'm a big advocate of taking advantage of all the different food options, but there's nothing wrong with frozen food like that. Let's see what else we got there. So guys, have a wet my whistle. All right. We have Vince joining us. He says, I fell into a bodybuilding only mindset for years. How can someone start to reframe cardio as a valuable part of fitness rather than a chore? All right. You're not alone with that. And a lot of gym bros, and I use that term with the utmost respect, because I was certainly a gym bro when I was competing in bodybuilding, but a lot of gym bros think, weight training is where it's at, and cardio sucks. And then vice versa. If you get around endurance athletes, they're the complete opposite. A lot of those guys are like, cardio is awesome, weight training sucks, right? It's like chalk and cheese. So you got to realize there's the best of both worlds. And one thing that I would encourage you is, what are you doing for cardio? Because the type of cardio you're doing is probably why you view it as a chore. if your idea of cardio is going in on the treadmill or elliptical or whatever cardio machines are at the gym, and you're just spinning your wheels and staring at the countdown timer, that is torture. That is a chore. Like there's not much mental stimulation, and it feels just like you're a hamster on a wheel. And you basically are. You're a human hamster on on a treadmill, right? Get outside. Like get outside, go for a walk, go for a hike, go for a bicycle ride. Like get outside and enjoy the stimulation of being outdoors. That is an adventure. That is not a chore. And that's what I do personally. Like for me, my main cardio is outside cardio. Like I love going for bicycle rides. Like I go mountain biking, I go road cycling, I go whatever. Like now that winter's around the corner, I even have a fat bike, and I put studded tires. I got like 5-inch fat bike tires, and they'll be studded tires, so I can go off road on like snowmobile trails and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm looking forward to that because that's so much fun to just get out in the woods and go adventuring. And when the ground is frozen and covered in snow, I mean, you can go so many places that you can't access in the summertime. So I'm really looking forward to that. So find forms of cardio that's an adventure. Maybe go snowshoeing or skiing or something like that, assuming you live in a northern climate and you do have snow and you can do that stuff. But even if you live in a southern climate and you don't have snow, like get outside, go walking and hiking and cycling and swimming, and enjoy outdoor cardio, not just spinning your wheels on a cardio machine and counting down the clock. Like that is torture. I agree. Now, sometimes you have to do it. Like if the weather is sucky outside, like it's a storm, or the weather's not suitable to get outside, sometimes you do have to do indoor cardio. And in those situations, you can make it more enjoyable by kind of piggybacking it off things that you do like. So prime example, if there's a podcast that I want to listen to, I'll sometimes listen to that while I'm doing cardio indoors on a cardio machine. Or if there's a movie or a show that I want to watch, right, I'll do that. Like I have a stationary bike and a rower set up in my home gym downstairs. Sometimes I'll set up my laptop or whatever, and let's say there's a show on Netflix that I want to watch. Well, I'm going to do cardio while I watch that show, right? And that makes it more enjoyable. I mean, I get to watch the show that I wanted to watch, but I'm getting my cardio in at the same time. So it makes it more enjoyable, and it actually makes it something that I look forward to. Or like I say, if there's a podcast I want to listen to, or something along those lines, right? Even throughout the day, sometimes I'll get in like little mini cardio sessions, because maybe there's a YouTube video that I want to watch, and I'm like, oh, that video is like 10 minutes long, versus just sitting on my desk or sitting at my desk and watch that video. I say, you know what? I'm going to take my phone or my tablet, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to sit on the stationary bike for 10 minutes, watch that video, and get 10 minutes of cardio in while I'm watching that video. So I can kind of get like little mini cardio sessions in throughout the day as well. And it doesn't take up any more time, because I was going to watch that video anyway. I could sit on my chair here at my desk, or I could sit on the stationary bike. I'm still doing the same thing, but I'm getting 10 minutes of extra activity that way. So there's all these little strategies that you can use to make it more fun or more enjoyable or more time efficient, right, versus doing the, feeling like it's a chore. So it's really just expanding your definition of cardio and how you go about it. But once you get into that routine and that rhythm, and you start doing more cardio, you're actually going to look forward to it and enjoy it. And personally, I would much rather get outside and do a cardio workout than go to the gym. Like, as weird as it sounds, to me, I'm almost like going the opposite route now, where I view like going to the gym and lifting weights, that's a chore. Getting outside and going for like a big bike ride and seeing different places and stuff, that's an adventure. That's fun. That's something I want to do. So, right, it's just a mental viewpoint, if you will, right? So you can certainly make it more enjoyable. You just have to expand what your definition of cardio is, right? It's not just always spinning the wheels on the treadmill and staring at a clock. Again, that is a chore. I mean, that just doesn't sound fun. All right. Another question here. What would you say are the principles of programming for trying to lift more weight? Oh, that's a deep question. It's a good question, but it depends on who's asking the question. Like, what level of fitness are you at? What are you trying to improve? Like, there's so many areas there we could go down, right? I mean, I'll take you through it. If you're still joining in here, Mr. Armored Ghost, feel free to elaborate there in the comments down below. But I'm just going to kind of take you through a general programming, right, from novice to advanced in a generic sort of fashion here. If you want more specifics, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about the specifics. But like I mentioned before, if I'm going to work with someone who's brand new to the gym, never worked out before, we're just going to start with basic machine exercises, a simple workout, and focus on showing up consistently. Like, we're not going to overcomplicate it. We're not going to bog down details. Like, just show up, be consistent, be good enough and good enough consistently. That alone works remarkably well, especially at the start. Like, I really don't care what program you follow initially, as long as you show up and you are consistent and you're doing it on a regular basis, you're going to see progress. It's almost inevitable. Eventually, your body's going to adapt to that level of training stimulation. It's going to grow in response to that training stimulation, but then it's going to hit a plateau. And every program goes through adapt, grow, plateau. Adapt, grow, plateau. Like, you can ingrain that. Like, just realize whatever I'm doing right now, okay, it's working now. That's great. Ride that wave of momentum for what it's worth. But realize eventually your body's going to adapt and it's going to grow. And then eventually it's going to plateau. And once you hit the plateau, and what I mean by plateau is your progress starts to go to flatline. Like, I was getting stronger week after week after week. And, for the last several weeks, I haven't been able to add any weight or increase my reps. Or even what often happens in a lot of cases is you start to backslide. Sometimes when you're doing your workouts is like, last week I could lift 100 pounds for 10 reps in this exercise. Now I'm struggling to get that 100 pounds for 7 or 8 reps. Like, it feels like I'm getting weaker. Like, what the hell's on the go? And that's usually the way plateaus work. Like, you go in peaks, and like, it's like peaks and troughs, if you will. Like, it goes up and then might start to dip down. That's usually the way a plateau works. Once you're at that stage where you realize, okay, it ain't working anymore, I'm stuck with this exercise, this movement, or whatever, then you want to you could switch up to a different movement pattern and focus on getting stronger in that one. Or you could change up the set and rep pattern that you're using for that particular movement. So, like, for example, like, say you're doing sets of 10 reps, maybe do, like I mentioned before, let's drop the reps back down to 5 reps and do multiple sets of 5 reps. See if you can get stronger in a lower rep range and just provide some unique muscle stimulation that way. Right? There's all kinds of different strategies. And again, the strategy we use really depends on where you're at in your stage of training. Right? But a common one that I like to use with a lot of my coaching students is just rotate through different exercises. So let's just say you're doing a leg press and you're at a point where, man, I'm hitting a plateau with the leg press. I just can't get any stronger. Okay, let's move and do another variation that's similar, works the same muscle groups, but it's a different exercise. So instead of leg press, let's do a pendulum squat, and let's focus on that for the next several weeks. And just start off light, get used to the new movement pattern, and then gradually build it up week after week after week until you eventually hit a plateau with that exercise. And then maybe we can switch up to another variation, right? Maybe we'll do some other squat variation or whatever, and then build up, and eventually you might hit a plateau with that one. And once you go through a few different exercise variations like that, very often, if you then go back to the initial one that you were stuck on, so again, like in our example here, let's say we were stuck on the leg press and you went through a couple different squat variations, like maybe a pendulum squat or a hack squat or whatever. When you come back to that initial exercise, this is usually how it works. You might have to start off a little lighter than you left off with, just to get used to that movement pattern again. And then very quickly, you'll build up to your previous max that you were handling. And then you'll probably be able to surpass it and then hit a new personal best, and then eventually hit a plateau at a higher level. And you can actually repeat that cycle over and over again. So you cycle through different exercises, and you build yourself up to a peak, starts to level off, switch movements. Then you build yourself up to a peak with that one, it levels off, switch movements. And you can rotate through different exercises in the gym. And this is a strategy I use with a lot of my coaching students. And it's a fun strategy because, especially as people have been working out for a long period of time, and we have, a training log of all their different exercises, and we keep records of all their different, you did, like, hey, back last time we did this exercise, you did this many sets and reps and weight. We can strive to beat that the next time we do that exercise. And you can kind of cycle through them. And it's a fun way to keep the exercise and the workouts more stimulating, because you're not always doing the same thing over and over again, but you're providing unique muscle stimulation. And it helps to encourage more growth. Right. So it's a fun way to go about it. But that's a great strategy that I've used, to rotate through different exercises, but exercises that are complementary and work the same movement pattern. And, that's one basic style of programming that I would use for a lot of people. And I find that it works really well. Right. Again, we could keep going down the rabbit hole with that one, but I'm going to stop it there, and we'll we'll move on, ask some more or answer some more questions here, because it's got several more coming through. Is Costco greater than Sam's? Honestly, I can't speak for that. We have Costco locally, but we don't have Sam's. I think Sam's, to the best of my knowledge, is United States only. I could be wrong on that, but I know there's no Sam's in Newfoundland. But we do have a Costco, and I am a regular Costco shopper. I find that it's not always cheaper. Like, I'll be totally honest. Like, sometimes you can get stuff at elsewhere for better deals than you can at Costco. Like, I'll just tell you one right off the bat. Walmart, like, sometimes Walmart's got better prices than Costco. Like, we were buying some stuff, we were buying it in bulk at Costco, and then when we actually broke it down on a per serving unit, you could get the same stuff, buy it individually at Walmart for cheaper than buying it in bulk at Costco. So it's like, dude, like, you got to be careful. Like, for the most part, you can get some good deals at Costco buying in bulk, but not always, right? You got to be a savvy shopper, because sometimes they catch you on the bulk deals. Like, you think, oh, I'm going to buy this big case of whatever, and think you're getting a great deal on it. And sometimes it's not, right? So just wanted to throw that out there. But again, I don't shop at Sam's because we don't have a Sam's here locally. So I can't comment on if it's better or worse. If anybody can, if any of you shop at Sam's and Costco or can compare the both, hey, let us know in the comments there. We have Adrian joining in, watching at work. Great show. All right. Don't tell your boss, right? Hey, Adrian's productive. What are you doing? You're watching Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding while you're supposed to be at work. I appreciate the support. I'm sure your boss doesn't, but he appreciates the fact that you're working on personal development and improving your health and fitness, which then will make you a more productive employee after, when the show is done. Right? We can always twist it around, make everything a positive if you look at it in the right light. What else we got there? Do you think hand grip, fingers strength is overlooked? For a lot of people, yeah. I mean, I can certainly relate to that, because for years I neglected grip training entirely. And I remember when I first found out about lifting straps, in my early days of my bodybuilding journey, right? Because everybody goes through a phase where you're just working out and grip is not an issue. Then eventually the weights get to the point where the weights are becoming heavier, and it's like I can still lift the weight. I feel like I got strength in my back or whatever, but my hands are the weak link. Like, I just can't hold on to the weights, but I feel like I still can pull more. And then you're introduced to lifting straps or lifting hooks or whatever. Like, back in the day, it was just lifting straps. Now there's all kinds of different variations of them. But I was introduced to lifting straps, and then I started to strap on for rows and deadlifts and pull-ups and all that stuff. And I'm like, whoa, now grip's not a limiting factor anymore, and I can lift so much more weight. And I got hooked on them, and I started to use them for pretty much all my rowing and pulling exercises where grip strength was an issue. I just used the lifting straps. And then I remember I wanted to start training for powerlifting. And then I realized in powerlifting, you're not allowed to use lifting straps. You just got to use chalk and your raw grip, right? So I couldn't hold on to a deadlift. I was like, what the heck? Like if I strap on, I can rip up this heavy deadlift, but no straps, I can't pull that weight. So then I had to really make up for lost ground and prioritize hand and grip strength. So that led me into like doing hand gripper training and specific grip training exercises, which I think are overlooked by a lot of people because you look at just there's a lot of training that's neglected, but like grip is usually way down the ranks. Like for a lot of guys, when they join the gym, it's like, okay, I want bigger chest, bigger arms, and I want six-pack abs. So it's just chest, arms, and abs. That's all I train. Like they don't even think about the back, don't think about the legs, right? Just chest, arms, abs. And then eventually they realize, well, hey, I got a back there, and I got chicken legs down there. So I better start training my back, I better start training my legs. And eventually, most guys, as they become more mature in their lifting, hopefully they incorporate exercises for all the major muscle groups. But the grip, like that is so low on the priority list for most people. It's only when that becomes a weak link that grip actually becomes an issue or a concern for most people. But yeah, I definitely think it's one of the most overlooked aspects of training. And the cool thing about it is like you can start doing that even right from the beginning in your early days of training, like start incorporating some grip work. And the stronger your grip, that's going to just enhance all your exercises because your grip is what connects you to the barbells, the dumbbells, the machines, the pull-up bar, whatever it is you're using. When you can grip and have a strong, secure grip, you're going to be able to lift so much more, and that's not going to be a weak link in the chain. So yeah, I mean, that can really take things to the next level. And sometimes, you might be hitting failure on an exercise, and it's not because the targeted muscle is hitting failure, but your grip is what's the weak link. And you got to end the set short because your grip is starting to slip. So yeah, if you build up your grip strength, that will usually carry over into better performance all around. And if anybody's interested in some specific grip training, just go back to that one again. I have a PDF that I put together called Huge Freaky Forearms. I'm got to say a very humbling title, but it's a program that I wrote and used back when I was going through this phase in my own training. And when I realized I've been neglecting my grip, and it incorporates the exercises that I use personally to help build up my grip strength and kind of like prioritize it and specialize it so I can get it up to par with the rest of my development. So if you would like a copy of that, it's called Huge Freaky Forearms. It's a PDF download that I have. Just send me an email and send me an email with the subject forearm PDF, right? If you do that, I'll know what you're talking about. Or if you're watching this on Facebook, you can send me a private message with the word forearm PDF and I'll know what it is you're talking about. And I'll send that over to you, right? Free of charge, no catch, no nothing. Like I'll just send that over because it's a PDF that I wrote years ago and I still got it on the computer. I'd be more than happy to share it with you for anybody who wants to prioritize their grip strength and forearm development, because grip and forearms, I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, but again, it's one of the most neglected areas of training. Most guys don't even think about it until they're advanced to the point where they know, oh shit, this is a weak link. I got to do something about it. What else we got there? AJ's got a question. Lee, I know you talked about this before, but could you go over your thoughts on really short workouts, 15 to 30 minutes, and how you would approach it, especially for full body? I know you say some form of workout is better than nothing at all. What's your mindset on doing really short workouts? That's a great question. Really short workouts. Sometimes, and I don't care how advanced you are or whatever, like everybody's going to run into a situation where you're going to be pressed for time and you got to squeeze in a short workout. Now, for me, I utilized short workouts when I was trying to get back in shape after I became a father, fell off the bandwagon, and got the quote unquote dad bod, right? Which is a real thing. I didn't didn't fully understand it until I became a dad and got a dad bod and realized, okay, I don't have all the time in the world to just head off and bang out a 2-hour workout at the gym, right? When you're a parent, and especially if you got a newborn, waking up in the middle of the night to a crying baby, bottle feeding and diaper changing, and then all the added responsibilities that go along with it, like you just can't spur of the moment jump and go. Like everything has to be planned out in advance. And with that schedule, like again, waking up in the middle of the night to a crying baby, your sleep is disturbed. So if you're not sleeping well, how are you feeling the next day? You're like, oh, groggy, like where's the coffee pot, right? Like I'm dragging my heels here. And if you're feeling tired, you're probably like, I don't feel like doing a 2-hour gym workout today. So for me, little short mini workouts like that was actually how I got back into training, because I, coming from the bodybuilding background, I had this mental block thinking like, if I don't have 2 hours to go to the gym, I don't have time to work out, right? If I can't go in there, go hardcore, then what's the point of doing anything at all? And I really had to let go of that mental block, that mindset shift, and really like, it's okay to give yourself permission to do a little bit, to take imperfect action, but to take imperfect action consistently is better than no action. Like the something's better than nothing attitude. And I know that sounds so easy and logical when you say it out loud, but when you're stuck in those old habits, it can be a real mental block. And it was for me, right? So, I mean, I was almost like, I'd rather do nothing than go in there and do an easy workout, because I'd almost feel guilty doing an easy workout. Whereas if I say, oh, and I'm going to do nothing, but I'll start again on Monday, then I'll go hardcore, right? Like you play all these stupid mind games with yourself. And then Monday would roll around, and I'll still be tired and busy and whatever. And like, oh, next Monday, I'll go hardcore. And then realize like, shit, I just got to do something. I got to just get off my ass. Heck, if it's a 10-minute workout, 20-minute workout, whatever, like something's better than nothing. And I actually wrote a blog post about that. If you just do a search for Lee Hayward, no time for exercise, it should pop up there in Google. I'm just going to do that right now. Searching for Lee Hayward, no time to exercise. And there it comes up. It's the first one that popped up in my search, whether that is the same on your end. But I'm just going to share the link there in our comment section. Boom. So you should get that there, AJ. Read that because that article or that blog post, I share my journey of incorporating the short workouts. I even have a couple of videos there where I go into more detail talking about letting go of that, perfection, all or nothing, and being okay with something's better than nothing, good enough and good enough consistently, like how that can really be a game changer. So I have a blog post and a couple of videos there that go into a lot more detail about that. But the big thing you need to realize when it comes to this, you're not like, if you're going to do a 15-minute workout, you're not going to hit every exercise, every muscle group or whatever. Like just focus on like something. For me, if I wanted to do a quick workout like that, I would probably do some push-ups, some body weight squats, maybe some core work. Maybe if you have some dumbbells or resistance bands or whatever, do some sort of rowing exercises for your back, maybe do a shoulder press. Like that could be it. Like literally that could be the workout. I might do push-ups, would be like a horizontal press, squats, that would be the legs, some sort of row, whether it's dumbbells or resistance bands, or even if you have a pull-up bar and you can do pull-ups, we'll do some pull-ups. Right, that would be the back, and then I probably do some shoulder presses with dumbbells or resistance bands, and like just focus on that, like those 4 movement patterns. Boom, just go through it in a circuit, do that a few times, like done. It's something. I mean, is it perfect? Is it optimal? No. Could it be better? Heck yes, it could be better, but it's better than sitting on the couch and doing nothing, right? And I do that sometimes. Like if I'm pressed for time now and I don't have time to go to the gym or whatever, sometimes I'll do that, just like a little mini circuit routine. Just pick a few exercises like that. And I usually try and think of things that are going to work, the big major muscle groups, like a push-up, a squat, a row, and a shoulder press, something along those lines, and just do that. Even if you're going to the gym, like maybe you got 30 minutes on your lunch break, you say, I want to get in something. make that one of those workouts. Like, you can still get in a good workout that way. Very often when I'm traveling, this is something that I do. Like, if I'm traveling and I'm maybe going to a seminar or something like that, and I'm staying at a hotel, I say, you know what? I know I'm going to be busy at the seminar, and I'm going to be networking and socializing and probably going out to dinner with people and making connections and stuff like that afterwards. So the thought of getting in a workout later in the day is probably not going to happen. So what I very often do when I'm at like seminars and business events like that, and traveling, staying at hotels, I get up extra early, like hit the hotel gym at like 6 a.m., get in a little 30-minute circuit like this, probably use whatever machines they have available there. But it would be just like, okay, I want to do a chest press, I want to do a row, I want to do shoulder press, and I want to do some sort of squat or leg press. Just do that for a few circuits. I'm good. Hit all the major muscle groups, and then it's something. I got exercise crossed off the list, and that's enough to still make some slow progress, or to at least maintain your fitness so that you don't backslide. Right. So I mean, that's something that you can do. Heck, even if you were in a hotel room and you never had access to a gym, you could do that as a body weight workout, or pack resistance bands. And like, that's something I do as well when I'm traveling. And if I know I got a good hotel gym, then I'll take advantage of that. But if I know that there's no gym or not sure, I'll throw resistance bands in my suitcase, So, I mean, I can even work out in a hotel room that way. And again, a little mini circuit routine like that is enough to make progress. And for those of you who are procrastinating getting started, and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, and I don't have any exercise equipment at home, get yourself a set of resistance bands, and you could start with that. I mean, that would get you moving in the right direction. And I've literally suggested that to people, and it's amazing how something so simple as that can start the momentum, start the progress moving in the right direction. And then as you get into that routine, you can always elaborate on it and add to it and incorporate different exercises, and eventually make it into a proper workout where you're hitting all your major muscle groups. But just keep it simple. Like, don't overcomplicate it at the start. Just get in there. Something's better than nothing, and you can always make it better as you go. But one of the biggest traps that a lot of people have is this all or nothing perfection mentality, where I'm going to wait until everything's perfect before I start. And that's the biggest mistake you can make, because I know people, I mean, there's people who I've been in contact with for years who they watch all the fitness videos. Like, they're probably watching this video chat right now. They follow all the fitness influencers on social media. Like, they know everything to do, right? I mean, heck, they probably got more fitness knowledge than most personal trainers do, but they're still waiting for that right time to start working out. Like, for whatever reason, they just love following fitness, but they don't actually apply jack shit, right? And there's probably a few of you listening to this and turning red in the face because you're like, holy shit, he's talking to me. But it's true. Like, I know so many people who, like, if I could talk bodybuilding, fitness, and whatever, like, they know it all, right? They know it all. They've been following it for years. And then I say, well, what are you doing? Nothing, right? Oh, I'm going to wait till the New Year's. I'll start again in January. Yeah, I'm going to start a hardcore program in January, get back in shape again. And of course, that's going to fizzle out by February, and then they'll be back to doing nothing again. Like, give yourself permission to start small and just do something. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Something's better than nothing. Right? Get the momentum moving. And then, of course, once you get that habit of actually doing something, whether it's a home workout or a gym workout or whatever, you can always make it better as you go. But the hardest part is just getting started. Right? So you got to make that barrier to entry as low as possible, right? Give yourself permission to start. And that's a hard battle. I mean, the reason I can speak to that is because I got stuck in that rut myself, right? That's what led to the whole Muscle After 40 coaching program, because I was in that situation where I know what to do up here, but I'm just not doing it, right? Yeah, and it's not a physical challenge, it's a mental challenge. That's what it is. All right, where was I? I lost my spot in the chat there. I'm going to get ready to include this up shortly anyway, because we're already gone over the hour, which all the regulars know is normal. I always promise an hour, and I end up yakking for an hour and 20 or more. Shit, where was I in the comments there? All All right, another question there. Every time I use the hack squat and the pendulum squat, I feel more pain on my shoulders than my legs, so I avoid. I'm not sure if that happens to everyone else. It it could be however the pads or whatever are set up. One thing I will say, your shoulders will toughen up to that over time. Like I remember in my early days of training, squats used to hurt my back, hurt my neck, and where the bar rested on your traps and stuff. And I was only using light weight, but it's still like that barbell just dug in. I was like, oh my God, this hurt. And I would try everything, like wrapping a towel around it or getting that foam pad and wrapping it around it. And like try and do everything to kind of, okay, I got to make this somewhat more comfortable. But the more I did it, sure, I used crutches and band-aids, like the towels or the pads or whatever to try and get through it. But you suffer through that initial discomfort, and eventually my traps and everything else toughened up, and now like I don't use anything on the barbell, just the bar on my back, and then I have no pain whatsoever. So I mean, you will adapt and toughen up to it over time, but if you're new to training, like that's pretty normal, like to feel some discomfort in your shoulders from the pads. And it's not just with squats or hack squats. I mean, like obviously the barbell and is going to dig in, but sometimes the shoulder pads might dig in as well. Even doing standing calf raises and having the pads on your shoulders from the standing calf raise, some people find that. But the more you do it, the more conditioned your shoulders and all those muscles, the traps and upper back will get, and eventually it'll become more and more comfortable, right? It's like developing calluses on your hands, for example. Like if you ever see like a working man's hands, like he's got thick skin and calluses, and it's just tough, like it's like shoe leather, right? Like nothing bothers their hands. But then you take someone who's not a working man and then have them go out and do like a day's work, like, oh, my hands are hurting, my hands are sore, and oh, this pains. And then someone who's been at it for years, like, don't be a pussy, right? Because they've obviously built up a pain tolerance to it. But just realize if you gradually build up to it slowly and progressively, you'll probably toughen that up, right? So right now, okay, it causes a bit of pain on the shoulders. Just maybe, hey, just do a couple sets, right? Just a couple easy sets and just gradually build it up week by week and see. And I'm willing to bet that over time you will toughen up the shoulders and you'll get to the point where that's not even an issue anymore. And you can train your legs to their capacity without even having any shoulder pain whatsoever. But initially, there probably will be some shoulder pain. So it's just kind of like that little initial hurdle you have to get through to get to the other side, right? I mean, sure, it's going to be a bit uncomfortable, but one thing that I would recommend, if you can, like wear a sweatshirt or a hoodie or something that gives you a bit more padding on the shoulders. Like don't go in with a stringer tank top on and have your bare shoulders up against the pad or something like that. Have a sweatshirt or a hoodie so you got a bit more padding there. Heck, if you want to, get a couple small hand towels and put over your shoulders, and put that there as a little bit extra padding. That might provide a crutch to help you do the exercise as well. Right? I've seen guys do that at the gym, like go get some small little hand towels and put them over their shoulders when they're doing squats or calf raises or whatever, and helps provide a little bit more cushion there. But just realize the more you do it, the more tough your shoulders will get and the less pain and discomfort. And eventually it should get to the point where there's zero pain or discomfort and you can just do the exercise without even having to worry about that. But you're not alone with that. That's a common issue for a lot of people, for sure. What else we got there? A second, I'll close that up. Hey Lee, how's it going? I want to learn how to count macros for my daughter and I. I tell you, I mean, obviously you can go watch YouTube videos and stuff like that, or search Google. Like there's lots of articles and stuff that explains how to count macros. But I have a PDF file that I put together that I actually use for my personal coaching students that outlines the foundation of how to count calories, track your macros, and what are good foods, like lists of good foods that are high in protein, good foods that are high in carbohydrates and high in healthy fats, and like how you can map out an ideal meal plan and track your macros. So if you would like a copy of that, Mr. War Gods, I love the avatar there with Bruce Lee. If you would like a copy of that, just send me an email, or if you're on Facebook, you can drop me a private message with the just put macros PDF, and I'll know exactly what you're talking about, and I'll send that over to you so you can go check that out. But that'll put you in the right direction and give you the foundation. And that applies to anybody else watching this. Like, I know I mentioned the forearms, the huge freaky forearms PDF that I was going to share with I can't remember their name now off the top of my head. With another one of our viewers was asking about grip and forearm exercises, so I'm going to share that with him. And this macros PDF. For those of you watching this now, if you would like a copy of that, again, send me a DM, send me an email, macros PDF or forearms PDF. I'll know what it is you're talking about, and I'll send that over to you so you can check it out. All right. With that being said, now I'm going to get ready and clue this up. I know there's still some more questions coming through, but I'm at the end of my time here now, and I'm going to go out and enjoy dinner with the family. But thanks again for joining in. Hopefully you got some value from our video chat today. I always enjoy doing these live at 5 Q&A every Friday, and we'll be doing another one next Friday, same time, same place on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. So I look forward to chatting with you then. In the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and we'll be in touch. And if you want to join us over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, again, I got the link to that down in the show notes below, where you can ask questions there as well and get some extra help and support with your training and fitness goals. All right. Have yourself a good one. Take care. Over and out.